The year was 2247, and the stars were full of voices that never spoke to humanity. The Galactic Concord, an alliance of ancient and advanced species, waged a desperate war against the Cathar Empire, a swarm of relentless predators. For decades, humans had watched from the silent edge of known space. They had sent applications for membership. They had offered help. The answer was always the same: rejection. Humans were too young, too emotional, too weak. They were primitives, clinging to their fragile planet while real civilizations danced among the stars. The Earth's stealth observation, Vessel Watcher's mark, hung in the void like a shadow. Its hull absorbed scans and emitted nothing. Inside, the light was soft and blue. Captain Li Jinryan sat in her command chair, her face calm but her eyes sharp as diamonds. On the main screen, a silent ballet of destruction unfolded. Golden ships of the Concord, smooth and elegant, clashed against the jagged, insect-like vessels of the Cathar. It was the Battle of Omicron Cygni. The Concord was losing. "Another flank collapses," Commander Park Min-soo said from beside her. His voice was a low rumble, as steady as stone. He pointed to the tactical display. Blinking red symbols swallowed the golden ones. "Their formation is too rigid. The Cathar are tearing them apart." Ji Hyan nodded slowly. She saw it. The Concord fought with honor, with formal lines of battle. The Cathar fought like wolves, chaotic and brutal. It was a mismatch. "Any change in standing orders from Earth?" she asked. "None, Captain," Min-soo replied. "Observe only. Do not reveal presence. Do not intervene." He repeated the words they had heard 1,000 times. On another part of the station, the crew watched with tight throats. They saw a Concord ship, its hull glowing golden, explode into a cloud of silent fire. There were lives in that fire. The silence on the bridge was heavy not far away. On the magnificent Concord station called Harmony Spire, a man in a simple gray suit felt the weight of that silence. Ambassador Kim Jun stood at the window of his small, plain office. His view was of the stunning central spire, where alien species of all shapes and colors glided by. None looked his way. He was the human ambassador, a title that meant professional beggar. For 10 years, he had argued, pleaded, and reasoned. He had shown them data on human medicine, engineering, and resilience. They had politely dismissed it all. A Velm counselor had once told him, "Your species has a fascinating history of conflict. You are, by nature, dividers. The Concord requires unity." Now, Kim Jun watched the live feed of the battle. His heart sank. The Concord flagship, the Luminous Will, was being surrounded. Its brilliant light was flickering. He knew the commander of that ship, a proud Velm named Keller. Keller had once refused to sit at the same table as June, calling his presence an atmospheric contaminant. Back on the Watcher's mark, the situation reached its end. The Cathar swarm closed in on the Luminous Will. The flagship's shields failed. A final transmission, broadcast on all general channels, filled the bridge. The image of Commander Keller appeared. His fine silver scales were dull. One of his 4 eyes was burned shut. "This is Commander Keller of the Concord flagship Luminous Will," the alien's voice hissed, full of static and pain. "We are overrun. Primary systems failing. We have failed. To the Concord High Council, I offer my final regret. To the Cathar, I offer only my ship's destruction. May the core consume you all." A Cathar voice, clicking and cruel, cut over the channel. "Your core is weak. Your light is out. We will pick your bones clean, Velm." Ji Hyan's hands gripped the armrests of her chair. Her knuckles were white. She saw the Cathar ships move in for the kill. She saw the faces of her crew, young men and women from Earth, from Mars, from the lunar colonies. They were watching a massacre. They had the power to stop it. Their ship was small, but it was built with human cunning not for head-on fights, but for striking where it hurt most. At that moment, a separate, encrypted channel blinked on Ji Hyan's private screen. It was a message from Ambassador Kim Jun. The text was simple, stark against the darkness. They will not ask. We must decide. The door is closing. Act or watch them fall. The words hung in the air. Observe only. The standing order echoed in her mind. To break it meant risking everything: their position, their technology, any future chance with the Concord. It could be seen as an act of war. She looked at Min Su. His dark eyes met hers. He gave a single, almost imperceptible nod. He had seen Jun's message too. He was with her, whatever she decided. She looked at her tactical officer, a young woman named Bei Suo, whose fingers were poised over her console. Captain? Suo whispered, hope and fear in her voice. The image of the dying Veln commander, Kaler, filled the main screen again. He was looking at something off-screen, perhaps at one of his crew. It was a look of profound sadness. A look Ji Hyan had seen before, in old videos from Earth's wars. That was it. It was not about politics. It was not about rules. It was about watching a living being be destroyed when you could do something. Her voice, when it came, was clear and solid, cutting through the tension on the bridge. All hands, battle stations. Silent running protocols disengaged. Power all non-essential systems. Bring the primary drive to full readiness. A surge of energy went through the crew. Consoles lit up with a warmer yellow light. A low hum vibrated through the deck plates as the Watcher's Mark woke up from its long, silent sleep. Open a channel, Ji Hyan said, standing up. She straightened her jacket. Broadcast on the same frequency as that Cathar taunt. Wide beam. Channel open, Captain, Min Su confirmed. On the main viewer, the image of the despairing Kaler was replaced by the sight of the approaching Cathar destroyer. Its weapons glowing a sickly green. Ji Hyan took a deep breath. She was no longer a shadow. She was a voice. Target the lead Cathar vessel. Ready electronic warfare suite, pattern delta. And hail the Concord flagship. A light blinked, indicating a connection. The bridge crew held their breath. On the shattered bridge of the luminous will, Commander Kyler heard a new alert. A communication. It was not the Cathar. The frequency was strange. He gestured weakly for it to be opened, expecting more insults. The main screen flickered. The image of the Cathar ship wavered and was replaced by a face he did not recognize. It had smooth skin, 2 eyes, and a head of dark hair. It was a human face. A female face, calm and determined. The voice that spoke was clear, translated perfectly by the ship's computer. It held no malice, no pride, only a firm certainty. Crippled Concord flagship. This is Captain Lai Ji Hyan of the Terran observation vessel, Watcher's Mark. You are not alone. Hold on. On the screen, behind the human captain, Kaler could see the faint outline of a small, sleek, and utterly alien bridge. Then his tactical screen lit up. A new signature, previously hidden, now burned bright at the edge of the battlefield. It was small. It was alone, but it was moving directly toward the heart of the Cathar swarm. For 3 long seconds, there was only silence on the bridge of the dying Concord flagship. Luminous will. Commander Kaler stared at the human face on his screen. His mind, trained in 100 battles, could not process it. A human? Here? Their ship's signature was tiny, a flicker compared to the Cathar beasts. Was this a final joke of the universe? A cruel illusion before the end? On the Watcher's Mark, there was no hesitation. Captain Li Ji-hyen's order had broken the stillness, and now her crew moved with a purpose the Concorde had never imagined. They did not move like soldiers in a parade. They moved like specialists in a surgery. "Cathar lead vessel is locking primary batteries on us," reported Bei Sua from Tactical. Her voice focused, not fearful. "Standard procedure for them," Ji-hyen said, her eyes on the tactical hologram. "They see a single small target. They crush it. Arrogance. Deploy NAC drones, pattern scatter. Initiate electronic warfare, full burst on my mark." On the main viewer, the Cathar destroyer glowed with gathered energy. A beam of molten green light lanced through the dark, aimed directly at the human ship. On the luminous will, Kyler instinctively flinched. That beam would cut the small vessel in half dot, never connected. A fraction of a second before impact, the Watcher's mark seemed to shimmer. It was not a shield. It was a cloud of 100 tiny objects, the NAC drones spilling from its hull like metallic dust. The Cathar beam tore through the cloud, vaporizing several drones, but the main ship had slid aside with a short, sharp burn that defied normal engine capabilities. The beam missed. They missed? Kaler S. second in command, a younger Veln, whispered in disbelief. Missing at that range was unthinkable. The Nats were not weapons. Not exactly. They were scouts, saboteurs, and messengers. While the Cathar captain roared, ordering his point defense guns to clear the annoying insects, the drones reached his ship. They did not explode. They latched onto hull plates, near engine vents and sensor arrays. Then, with precise little charges, they blew holes smaller than a human hand. Into these holes they released a second wave of even smaller drones, like mechanical bacteria. These nanos flooded into the Cathar ship's external piping and wiring. Electronic warfare. Now, Ji-hyen commanded, on the Watcher's mark, a specialist named Kim Tae-woong activated a program. It did not send a powerful jamming signal. That would be a brute force attack, and humanity had no brute force to match the Cathar. Instead, it sent a complex, whispering signal directly into the open sensor ports the nanos had compromised. It was a mimicry signal, designed to look like the KTHAR's own internal communication network. On the Cathar destroyer, alarms began to scream. But they were false alarms. The engineering deck received urgent warnings that the weapons core was overheating, and automatic safeties shut down the main cannons. The bridge was told that life support on the lower decks had failed, causing panic. The ship's own systems were turned against itself, creating chaos from within. Lead vessel is dead in the water. Weapons offline, engines in safe mode. Sua announced, a note of triumph in her voice. On the luminous will, the crew watched, stunned. The Cathar ship, a moment ago a terror, now drifted silently, lights flickering oddly across its hull. What did they do? Kaler breathed. He had not seen a single laser blast or missile strike. The other Cathar ships, seeing their leader disabled, turned their rage toward the human vessel. 3 smaller attack ships broke formation and charged, their weapons glowing. This was what they understood. Direct attack. Ji-hyen smiled thinly. They're predictable. Helm, take us into the nebula cloud at bearing 027. Use the radiation density for cover. The Watcher's mark dove toward a nearby cloud of glowing cosmic dust. The Cathar followed, firing. Their shots disappeared into the colorful gas. Inside the cloud, visibility dropped to 0 on normal scanners. But the human ship was not using normal scanners. Its sensors were built to listen, not just to look. It heard the gravitational whispers of the enemy ships, felt the minute distortions their engines made in the nebula's magnetic field. Launch grappler missiles. Ji-hyen ordered. Passive guidance only. Let them follow the ion trails. From within the cloud, 6 small projectiles shot out. They had no fiery exhaust. They were cold and dark. They followed the faint, lingering ion signatures left by the charging Cathar ships. Before the Cathar could react, the missiles slammed into their hulls and stuck. Then they discharged. Not an explosion, but a powerful, localized electromagnetic pulse. The pulse was carefully tuned strong enough to fry control systems and weapon electronics, but calibrated not to breach the hull or kill the crews inside. One by one, the 3 attack ships spiraled away, control lost. Their lights going dark, the rest of the Cathar swarm hesitated. This was not battle. This was witchcraft. Their prey was not fighting back. It was making them irrelevant. It was turning their ships into useless metal tombs without killing a single being. The concept horrified them more than any honorable destruction. Ji Hyan saw the hesitation on her tactical display, broadcast a wideband signal on all their command frequencies. Just one word, in their own language. The communications officer, a man named Park Ji-hun, nodded. Sending now. To every Cathar ship, a single, digitally perfect click hiss echoed in their command channels. It was a word. It meant broken. It was the ultimate insult in their warrior culture. The Cathar reaction was instant and chaotic. Some ships surged forward in blind rage. Others, more cautious, began to pull back. Their neat, predatory formation dissolved into confusion. Seeing the opening, the remaining functional Concorde ships, though battered, found new spirit. Without a unified Cathar command to direct them, they began to strike back, picking off the confused attackers. The battle, which had been a certain Cathar victory minutes before, was now a rout. The Watcher's mark drifted calmly out of the nebula cloud. Its hull streaked with nebula dust, but otherwise unmarked. It moved slowly toward the crippled luminous will. It did not look like a warship. It looked like a quiet, observant bird that had somehow scattered a pack of wolves. On the bridge of the Concorde flagship, the silence was now one of awe. Clore looked at the small vessel on his screen. He saw no scorch marks from weapons fire. He saw no proud flags or fierce symbols. He saw only smooth, functional metal. A communication request blinked. It was from the human ship. With a trembling hand, Clore accepted. The face of Captain Lee Ji-hyan appeared again. She looked the same as before, calm, a little tired. Concorde flagship, this is Captain Lee. The immediate threat appears to be dispersing. Do you require medical or engineering assistance? We have trauma kits and basic repair drones. Clore could not speak. His mouth opened, but the words he had been taught, words of Velen superiority, of gratitude for honorable aid, felt like ashes. This was not honorable aid. This was something else entirely. It was efficient. It was clean. It was terrifying. He finally managed to make a sound. Captain Lee. What? What are you? On the screen, Ji-hyan's expression softened just a little. It was not a smile. It was the look of someone stating a simple, obvious fact. We are the people you rejected, Commander, she said, her voice quiet but clear across the void. And right now, we are the only reason you are still alive to ask that question. She glanced at something off-screen. My sensors show significant life signs on your decks 4 through 7. We are sending a list of our available medical supplies. Please advise. Watchers mark out. The transmission ended. The human ship hung in the space before his broken vessel, a silent, impossible guardian. Clore looked at his crew. They were all staring at their instruments, at the view screen, at him. The shame that washed over him was hotter than any enemy laser. They had been saved, and they did not even understand how. The victory at Omicron Cygni was a fact. The Cathar were gone. their remaining ships fleeing into the dark. The broken Concorde fleet was saved. But aboard the vast, beautiful station known as Harmony Spire, there was no celebration. Instead, a cold, hard anger had taken root. Ambassador Kim Jun felt it in the air as he walked through the gleaming corridors. The alien species who usually ignored him now looked at him with new eyes. They were not looks of gratitude. They were looks of suspicion, of fear, of insult. The story had spread. The primitive humans had a hidden weapon. They had cheated. They had broken the rules of war. He entered the High Council chamber. It was a massive circular room with floating platforms for each member species. The air hummed with translation fields. He stood alone in the central speaker's circle, a small figure in a gray suit against a backdrop of towering, elegant aliens. The Veln representative, an elder named Exlin, spoke first. His silver scales glittered under the lights. Ambassador Kim, your vessel, the Watcher's Mark, violated multiple interstellar observation treaties. Its very existence is an affront. You were meant to observe, not to perform these tricks. Kim Jun kept his voice level. Tricks that saved over 10,000 Concorde lives, Counselor, including those on Commander Kaler's flagship. A Tolian representative, her body like carved crystal, chimed in. Her voice was like breaking glass. The manner of the saving is the issue. You used subterfuge. You attacked systems, not warriors. You caused confusion, not honorable engagement. This is not how civilized beings fight. With respect, Jun said, feeling a familiar frustration bubble in his chest. It is how beings fight to win without slaughter. We offered our help for decades. You refused it. When we gave it anyway, you question its style? We question its danger. Boomed a creature from a heavy gravity world, its voice like grinding stones. You hid these capabilities. What else are you hiding? Your medicine? Your engineering? It could all be a trick for infiltration. The meeting devolved from there. Accusations flew. The Council demanded the immediate surrender of the Watcher's Mark and all its technology for security analysis. They demanded a full list of all human military assets. They wanted human observation rights revoked. Kim Jun refused, calmly but firmly. Humanity will not surrender its right to self-defense or the tools that saved your citizens. We are not subjects. We offered to be partners. You seem to want us to be prisoners. He left the chamber under a storm of hostile glares. The door hissed shut behind him, sealing in the sound of their outrage. He leaned against the cool wall for a moment, closing his eyes. It was worse than he had imagined. Their pride was more wounded than their fleet. Meanwhile, in the lower engineering docks of the station, Commander Park Min-soo was having a different, but equally tense conversation. He stood with a group of Concorde military officers whose ships had been saved. They were mostly junior officers, their uniforms still stained with battle soot. Your drone patterns, a young Veln engineer named Vrin said, her voice eager. The way they used the enemy's own network against them. It's brilliant. It's adaptive. Can you teach the principle? Min-soo shook his head. I cannot. Not without authorization from my government and yours. And your council has just demanded we give it all away, not share it. A human voice, sharp with annoyance, cut through from behind a console. They want to take my babies apart to see why they're clever. It's stupid. Choi Soon-chil, the lead engineer from the Watcher's Mark, was on his back under a console interface, tools scattered around him. He had been invited to assist with integrating some minor human repair systems. In reality, he was being watched. A stern Tolian overseer hovered nearby. Your technology is unstable and unknown, human Choi. It must be evaluated. The Council's orders are clear. Soon-chil slid out and glared. You have a leak in your primary plasma conduit on deck 40. My unstable sensor found it in 10 seconds. Your stable systems didn't notice it for 3 weeks. Do you want me to fix it, or do you want to evaluate my wrench? The officers hid smiles. They liked Choi Soon-chil. He was blunt, he was rude, and he fixed things. But the overseer's crystalline face darkened. Your attitude is noted. Continue your work. As Min-soo walked away, he saw 2 security drones float closer to Soon-chil's workspace. They were not there to help. The real problem, however, was unfolding in the medical bays. Footage, captured by a damaged Concorde shuttle, was spreading through the station's public networks. It showed the human medics from the Watcher's Mark, working in a collapsed section of the Luminous Will. The clip focused on a human woman, Medic Kang Hai-jin. She was kneeling in the wreckage beside a wounded Veln soldier, whose leg was trapped under a beam. A Concorde medbot hovered, stating the obvious. Limb is crushed. Amputation required. Hai-jin had ignored the bot. She was speaking softly, a translator disc on the Veln's chest. I need you to look at me. The pain is bad, I know. But your leg is still there. We can save it. She had then called for a small, human-made device, a structural brace. She slid it under the beam, and with a quiet hum, it lifted the heavy metal just enough. With careful, quick movements, she stabilized the mangled leg, injected a nanobiogel to prevent tissue death, and fitted a support sleeve. This will hurt for a while, she had said, her voice calm and sure. But you will walk on your own legs again. The Veln soldier had grabbed her arm, not in attack, but in desperate thanks. The raw emotion on his alien face was unmistakable. That clip did more damage to the Council's position than any weapon. Ordinary beings on the station saw it. They saw compassion. They saw skill that their own medical bots lacked. They saw a human touching an alien with care. A public sentiment, small but growing, began to ask, why are we angry at these people? The Council's response was to become harsher. They saw the sympathy as a threat. They ordered the footage suppressed. They increased restrictions on the human personnel. Kim Jun was summoned to a private meeting with Councillor Exlin. It was not in the Grand Chamber, but in a small, cold office. The Veln elder did not offer him a seat. The situation is unacceptable, Ambassador, Exlan hissed. Your people are causing chaos. Your hidden weapons undermine our security. Your emotional displays undermine our social order. We are saving lives and fixing your station, June replied, his temper finally wearing thin. You are disrupting the natural order. Eshklin snapped. The Cathar are a known enemy. You are an unknown. A variable. The Concorde cannot tolerate variables. He leaned forward, his 4 eyes boring into June. This is your final chance. Order your ship to stand down. Surrender its technology for analysis. Confine your personnel to their quarters. If you do not, we will be forced to declare humanity an enemy of the Concorde and treat you as such. Your ship will be impounded. Your people will be detained. The threat hung in the air, cold and final. They would rather make an enemy of their rescuer than admit they needed help. Kim Jun said nothing for a long moment. He thought of Ji Hyan on the bridge of her ship, of Soon-chil and his tools, of medic Kang Hai-jin saving a leg. He thought of the arrogance in this room, an arrogance that preferred death to embarrassment. He straightened his suit. I will convey your offer to my government counselor, but I think you misunderstand. He turned to leave. Misunderstand what? Exlin demanded. Kim Jun paused at the door. You think this is a negotiation. It stopped being a negotiation the moment your commander sent his surrender. You issued an ultimatum to the Void. And the Void, he said, thinking of the quiet, determined face of Captain Lee Ji-hyun, answered, "I am just the messenger." He left the Velm fuming. Back in his own tiny quarters, he sealed the door. He activated a secure, tight beam channel, one the Concorde had not yet found. The screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of the Watcher's mark. Captain Lee Ji-hyun looked at him, waiting. "They have chosen pride over survival," Kim Jun said, his voice tired. "The formal ultimatum will come soon. Stand down, surrender everything, or be declared an enemy." On the screen, Ji-hyun didn't look surprised. She just nodded slowly. "What are your orders, Ambassador?" June took a deep breath. The weight of the decision was colossal. But he had seen the footage from the medical bay. He had seen the faces of the young Concorde officers talking to Min-soo. There was a crack in the council's wall. A small one. "They have made their choice," he said, his voice firming. "Now we make ours. The question is no longer if we help. They have made that necessary. The question is how we help a civilization that is too proud to ask for it. Prepare for my signal, Captain." He closed the channel. Outside his window, the beautiful, arrogant spires of the Concorde station glittered, unaware that the storm they had just tried to dismiss was not leaving. It was deciding how best to save them from themselves. The tension on Harmony Spire was a live wire, humming with dread. News of the approaching Cathar Armada spread through the station's population like a cold shock. This was not a raiding force. Scout reports showed a massive fleet, a wall of jagged ships blotting out the stars. Their intent was clear: total destruction. The spire was the heart of the Concorde, a symbol of their unity. The Cathar meant to tear it out. In the High Council, panic had replaced anger. Debates railed about rallying distant fleets, about last stands, about evacuation protocols that were impossible for so many. The air was thick with fear and despair. Their proud ships, what remained of them, formed a traditional defensive line between the station and the enemy. It was a brave, beautiful, and utterly hopeless formation. Aboard the Watcher's Mark, holding position just outside the main shipping lanes, Captain Lee Ji-hyun watched the tactical display. The glowing line of Concorde ships was dwarfed by the approaching red swarm of Cathar vessels. It was a repeat of Omicron Cygni, but on a scale that guaranteed annihilation. Ambassador Kim Jun's final, encrypted message glowed on her screen. "The door is shut. They will not open it. It is time to build a new one. You have full authority. Save who you can." Ji-hyun turned to her bridge crew. They looked back at her, faces set, waiting. They had been called cheats, liars, and destabilizers. Now, the fate of billions hung in the balance. "They are fighting the wrong war," Ji-hyun said, her voice calm in the quiet bridge. "We will not join that fight. We will change the battlefield. Activate the human doctrine. Network-wide authorization. Lee Ji-hyun, Zulu 79er. Across the human elements in the system, lights came on. Not on warships, but on cargo haulers, salvage tugs, fast courier ships, and long-range surveyors that had quietly gathered. They were not part of a fleet. They were a toolkit. The Cathar Armada entered attack range. The Concorde line fired, brilliant lances of light cutting the dark. The Cathar returned fire, a storm of green destruction. Concorde ships began to die, spectacularly and bravely, their shields flickering out like spent candles as the first debris fields bloomed. A new voice cut across all communication channels, both Concorde and Cathar. It was not the formal declaration of the Concorde High Council. It was the calm, clear voice of Captain Lee Ji-hyun. "People of the Galactic Concorde, Cathar invaders, you are fighting a battle of absorption. You seek to absorb the other's strength or be absorbed." Her image appeared on screens across the spire, on the bridges of dying Concorde ships, even on the main viewer of the Cathar command ship. Humanity does not fight to absorb. We fight to understand. And then, we change the rules. As she spoke, the first wave of human actions began. They were not attacks. A cluster of old human salvage tugs, their hulls patched and warm, fired canisters into the space between the fleets. The canisters burst, not into explosions, but into vast clouds of reflective chaff and sensor-scrambling nanites. To the Cathar targeting systems, the entire battlefield suddenly became a blur of false signatures and ghost images. A dozen new ships appeared on their scopes where there was only dust. The real Concorde ships became hazy and difficult to lock onto. On the spire itself, in a maintenance duct filled with wires, Choi Soong-shil grinned fiercely. His hands flew over a jury-rigged control panel, patched into the station's own internal network. The stern Tolian overseer was nowhere to be seen. He had fled to a safer zone. "All right, you big, beautiful bucket of bolts," Soong-shil muttered to the station. "Let's make some noise." He activated a program. Across the spire's outer hall, hundreds of maintenance lights, docking beacons, and even advertising hollas began to flash in a rapid, chaotic sequence. To the Cathar scanners, it looked like powerful weapons were charging and discharging randomly across the station's surface. It was a light show, a disco ball of confusion. The Cathar advance wavered, thrown off by the sensory chaos dot. Then came the second phase. Small, fast human courier ships, engines flaring, zipped through the debris fields. They did not fire a single shot. They launched small pods that attached to floating wreckage, a piece of a Concorde wing here, a Cathar engine plate there. On Ji-Hyen's command, the pods activated miniature tractor beams. They began to move. Slowly, then with gathering speed. They nudged the massive pieces of debris into new trajectories. A Cathar cruiser, focusing on a ghost image, didn't see the half-melted hull of a Concorde frigate tumbling into its path until it was too late. The collision wasn't fatal, but it sent the cruiser spinning, its weapons firing wildly into its own formation dot in the medical bays of the spire. Now overflowing with wounded, Medic Kong Hai-jin was not just healing. She was organizing. She had linked her simple human medical database with the Concorde's overwhelmed system. She directed alien nurses and orderlies, human and Velm, and Tolian working side by side. "You, take these biogel packs to Bay 3. You, pressure seals on the wounds first, then stimulant." Her authority, born of competence, cut through the panic. She created pockets of order in the chaos, saving lives not with a scalpel, but with clear, calm organization. The battlefield was now a swirling, chaotic mess. The Cathar were furious, disoriented. They were warriors built for a clean fight. See enemy, crush enemy. This was not clean. This was madness. Their formations broke apart as they tried to chase ghosts and dodge tumbling debris. On the bridge of the Watcher's Mark, Commander Park Min-soo watched the main display. The Cathar command ship is holding back, trying to re-establish control from the rear. It's the only coherent node in their network. Ji-Hyen nodded. Then that's the node we remove. Not by destruction, by truth. Is the package ready? Ready, Captain. While the light show and the debris dance held the Cathar's attention, a single stealthy shuttle had detached from a human surveyor vessel. It flew a perilous route, not toward the enemy, but using the sensor shadows cast by the very chaos humanity had created. Its pilot was Park Min-soo. Its passenger was a data core. The shuttle, looking like just another piece of wreckage, slipped into the landing bay of the massive Cathar command ship. Its systems were blinded by the electronic noise flooding space. Min-soo, in a light combat suit, moved through the alien corridors, his path mapped by the same drones that had sabotaged ships at Omicron Cygni. He reached a central data junction. He didn't plant a bomb. He plugged in the core. On the bridge of the Carthar command ship, the warlord was roaring at his subordinates, demanding clear targets. Suddenly, every screen flickered. The tactical display was replaced by a simple playback. It showed the High Council's chambers. It played Ambassador Kim Jun's final meeting with Counselor Exlin. The Veln's voice, translated into the harsh Cathar language, filled the bridge. You are an unknown, a variable. The Concord cannot tolerate variables. The scene shifted to the medical bay footage of Kan Hai Jin saving. The Veln soldier's leg dot, it shifted again to the human salvage tugs. Creating the sensor cloud, a final. Translated voiceover, calm and human, spoke. You are not fighting warriors. You are fighting witnesses. The Concord rejected us for saving them. They preferred death to shame. You fight to conquer a corpse. Is that the victory of the mighty Cathar? To be the scavengers of a civilization that already killed itself with pride? The data core then uploaded everything. The records of every human rejection. The full sensor logs of the Omicron Cygni battle, showing the Cathar's own systems being turned against them. The current battle analysis, showing how confusion was defeating their might dot. It was a weapon no shield could block. It was the truth. On the Cathar bridge, the warlord's rage turned inward. He saw not a mighty conquest, but a farce. He saw his own forces in disarray, tricked by primitives. He saw the Concord, whose weakness he despised, being saved by those they despised even more. The shame was not on the Concord anymore. It was on him for being outmaneuvered so completely. A deep, guttural order echoed through the ship, then through the fleet. The Cathar ships, those that could, began to disengage. They turned away from the confusing, dishonorable battlefield. They retreated into the warp lanes, leaving behind not a conquered enemy, but a baffled and saved one. The sudden silence that fell over the battlefield was louder than any explosion. The Concord forces, braced for death, looked around at the drifting sensor chaff and the human tugs now moving to help damaged ships. On Harmony Spire, the silence in the High Council chamber was absolute. They had seen it all. The light show, the debris, the human medics. And they knew, somehow, that the Cathar had not been beaten by force, but by an idea they could not comprehend. Captain Li Ji-Hyan's face appeared once more on the main screen. She looked tired, but her eyes were clear. She said only one sentence, directed at no one and everyone. The battlefield has changed. The question is, have you? The silence after the battle was a heavy thing, but it was not the silence of death. It was the silence of a question hanging in the air, waiting to be answered. The Cathar Armada was gone, retreating into the dark reaches of space. The Galactic Concord was saved, but its pride was in ruins. The beautiful spires of Harmony Spire still stood, but the ideas that had built it lay cracked and broken. In the weeks that followed, a quiet revolution took place. It did not come with weapons or shouts. It came with whispers in the corridors, with data packets shared between junior officers, with stories told by wounded soldiers about human medics and engineers who fixed things without being asked. The old High Council, whose arrogance had nearly doomed them all, found it had no one left to lead. Their authority had evaporated. No one would listen to the voices that had called humanity a disease. A new provisional council was formed. It included younger Veln commanders who had survived Omicron Cygni. It included Tolian engineers who had secretly admired Choi Soong-Shil's brash skill. It included representatives from the species his people had been treated in. Kang Hai Jin's medical bays. They invited humanity to speak, Captain Lee Ji-hyun, and Ambassador Kim Jun walked side by side into the great circular chamber. The room was the same, but the feeling was different. The floating platforms were still there, but the beings on them did not look down with disdain. They watched, their expressions a mix of wariness, curiosity, and a hard-earned respect. Kim Jun did not carry a plea for membership. He carried a simple data slate. Ji-hyun stood beside him, not in a dress uniform, but in her standard ship's fatigues, clean and functional. A Veln representative, not the elder Xlan, but the younger commander, Vrin, who had spoken with Minsu, was the first to break the quiet. Her silver scales reflected the chamber light as she stood. Ambassador, Captain, the Concord owes you a debt it does not know how to repay. You saved us from extinction, and we rejected you. For that, there are no words of apology that are enough. Kim Jun gave a small nod. Thank you, Commander. But humanity did not act for thanks or for debt. Then why? Asked Tolian, her crystalline form shimmering. Why help those who scorned you? Ji-hyun answered, her voice clear in the vast space. Because watching someone drown when you can throw a rope is wrong. It does not matter if they insulted the rope first. The simplicity of the statement hung in the air. It bypassed all their complex codes of honor and politics. We invited you here, Vrin continued, to discuss the terms of your inclusion into the Galactic Concord. Membership, a seat on this council. Kim Jun smiled, a small, tired smile. He placed the data slate on the central podium. A hologram sprang to life above it. It was not a map of human space or a list of demands. It was a simple three-part diagram. With respect, Jun said, humanity does not seek membership. A ripple of confusion went through the chamber. Not seek membership? It was all they had asked for decades. What do you seek? The Tolian asked, puzzled. We seek a partnership, Ji-hyun said, stepping forward. She pointed to the diagram. You have your way. The Concord way. It is strong. It is unified. But it is also rigid. It could not adapt to the Cathar. It would have broken. She gestured to a second part of the diagram, a separate, flexible network of nodes. Humanity has its way. It is adaptive. It is decentralized. It is messy. It solves problems you do not see as problems until it is too late. She looked around the room, meeting alien eyes. If we join you, we would have to become like you. We would have to follow your rules, your protocols. Our way would be absorbed and lost. And the next time a threat comes that you cannot understand with your rules, you will have no one to think outside them. Kim Jun activated the final part of the diagram. It showed the two systems, the Concord and the human network, side by side, connected by a few strong, clear lines. So we propose this, not membership, an associated partnership framework. Humanity remains independent. We keep our ways, our ships, our methods. But we agree to be allies. You can call on us for help with crises that defy your logic, medical, engineering, defensive. We will offer our unique skills. And we may, in turn, ask for your help with things you excel at: large-scale construction, deep space mapping, cosmic history. The chamber was utterly silent as the representatives processed this. It was unprecedented. It was a rejection of their ultimate offer. And yet, it made a terrible logical sense. They had seen what happened when humanity's way was forced into a box. It simply built a new box around the problem. Vrin was the first to speak, a note of awe in her voice. You are not asking for a chair at our table. No, Ji-hyun said. We are offering to build a new table right next to yours. And we are inviting you to share the view. The vote was not unanimous. Some old habits died hard, but it passed. The Galactic Concord accepted the Human Associated Partnership Framework. Later, On the observation deck of the Watcher's Mark, Ji-Hein looked out at the stars. The ship was preparing to return to Earth for the first time in years. Beside her, Kim Jun finally allowed his shoulders to slump, the weight of decades lifting. "They didn't want us at their table, Jun," Ji-Hyun said softly. "I know," he replied. "So we built a new one. And strangely, I think the conversation will be better for it." Down in the main docking bay of Harmony Spire, a different kind of meeting was taking place. A Concorde frigate, damaged in the battle, was undergoing repairs. Its Tolian chief engineer was struggling with a cracked power conduit that refused to seal with standard Concorde binder. Choi Soong-chil, toolkit in hand, was walking by, preparing to board a human transport. He stopped, watching the alien engineer's frustration for a moment. With a sigh, he walked over. "Your binder is for crystalline alloy. This conduit has a carbon composite layer from a human salvage patch." "They're fighting each other." The Tolian looked up, her faceted eyes blinking. "The repair protocol said to use." "The protocol is wrong for this soup of parts," Soong-chil interrupted, not unkindly. He rummaged in his kit and pulled out a different applicator. "Here, use this. It's a hybrid adhesive. It doesn't care what the material is. It just sticks." He showed her how to apply it. The Tolian engineer watched, then took the tool. Her delicate hands fumbled with the human design. Soong-chil, notorious for his impatience, surprised himself. He didn't grab it back. He gently guided her hands. "Like this. The pressure here. Don't force it. Just listen. Feel it grip." The adhesive spread and hardened, creating a perfect, seamless seal. The conduit hummed to life, power flowing smoothly. The Tolian engineer looked from the conduit to her hands, to the human tool, and then to Soong-chil's face. A strange, soft chime sounded from her, the equivalent of a sigh of relief, or perhaps a laugh. "It listened," she chimed. Soong-chil gave a grudging nod. "Yeah, sometimes things just need to listen to each other." He turned to leave, then tossed the applicator tube to her. "Keep it. You might need it again." He walked away, leaving the Tolian engineer holding the simple human tool. She looked at it, then back at the smoothly functioning conduit, a mix of alien and human technology working as one. It was a small thing, a tiny repair. But in that moment, in that quiet docking bay, it felt like the most important thing in the galaxy. High above, the Watcher's Mark powered its engines, a gentle blue glow against the dark. It turned away from the station, not as a rejected supplicant, not as a conquering hero, but as an equal partner heading home. The war was not over. The galaxy was still vast and strange. But a new way had been forged. Not by conquest, but by intervention. Humanity had intervened, and nothing would ever be the same.